Hello, I'm Chris Hewitt and welcome to Gameshock TV, your monthly encyclopedia for the world of gaming, only much smaller than an actual encyclopedia and not available in leather. Or is it? No. Anyway, coming up on today's show, a montage of what's coming up on today's show. Duke Nukem Forever is finally here, but has the bubblegum burst? Testosterone overload as Steve takes on the UFC, and we dish the dirt on Dirt 3, LA Noire, and all the month's top releases. When Duke Nukem last graced our screens, the world was a much happier place. Bop was rocking the charts, Mother Teresa was still feeding orphans, and Jar Jar Binks was nothing more than a glint in George Lucas's eye. Lucas! Anyway, now the Duke is back, bathed in babes, bombast and bad taste. But with a development cycle longer than both World Wars put together, has the wait been worth it? Let's find out.
I calculated that 3D Realms had invested somewhere between 3,500 and 4,500 man-months of time over their time in developing the game. By the time that Gearbox ships Duke Nukem Forever, we'll have invested another 2,500 man-months. When Duke Nukem begins, Duke is finally playing his own video game. What's interesting is it's kind of a fourth wall moment where, you know, he feels about it kind of the same way we do. It's like there's so many games that take themselves seriously. And you know, it's nice, it's kind of refreshing to be able to relax, to remember that video games are supposed to be fun.
Yeah, but after 12 years, it should be.
In the time it's taken for Duke Nukem Forever to hit our screens, you could have raised a teenager, served a medium-term prison sentence, or waited for Guns N' Roses to almost make an album. You could also have watched the games industry evolve beyond recognition, leaving poor old Duke a relic of the last century, both in political and technical terms. Whereas his casual sexism can possibly be overlooked in the name of alleged comedy, the graphics unfortunately cannot. In modern terms, it stinks more than a conga line of diuretic skunks, further addled by an epileptic frame rate that is scarcely any smoother than Duke's one-liners. The gameplay is similarly archaic, a heady return to the good old days when enemies simply ran at you, forcing you to relearn old skills such as circle strafing and panicking blindly, not least during the obligatory boss levels. It's by no means easy, however, and unlike modern shooters, there's no omnipresent white dot to follow. You often have to work out what to do by using your mind, a concept that younger gamers may find bewildering. If you can ignore the looks and technical limitations, Duke Nukem Forever is actually a solid old-school linear shooter, with some thumb-ruining action and spectacular set pieces. Whatever the year, that shotgun still packs a punch. Is it the awesome game everyone hoped for? Not by a long shot, and in some ways, it's hard not to feel a little violated by the hype. Despite an anachronistic gag about eBay, Duke is hopelessly set in his ways, but when it gets down to it, maybe that's how we like him. There's enjoyment to be had here, and the franchise still has some promise left. Just don't make it so long next time.
Hell, I'd still hit it.
And now another one for fans of procrastination. It's been 10 years since American McGee released his very original take on Alice in Wonderland. We spoke to the man himself about why he went back down the rabbit hole after all these years.
There wasn't really anything terribly special about 10 years having passed. It was, in fact, like with the first game, a matter of being in the right place at the right time. We weren't just going to push the blood and gore button. We didn't think there was much that was scary about that. We also had this idea that anything that we were going to see or that Alice was going to experience in Wonderland had to be something she would have seen or experienced in her real life in London or in the asylum. And so that limitation actually is interesting because it forces us in a creative sense to come up with different ways to be scary. We've added in this new event of the death of her family in the first game, which then leads to her being institutionalized in an insane asylum and also leads to a sort of fracturing of her mind. Then as we find her in the second game, she's left the asylum having conquered her emotional demons in the first game. But again, you know, we're trying to maintain something of a reality about the character, someone who, were she the character from the Alice books that everyone knows, and had she been through these events, could logically be in the place that she's in when we find her in the sequel.
You know, there's nothing like a nice quiet Sunday afternoon drive. And Dirt 3 is nothing like a nice quiet Sunday afternoon drive. Codemasters have returned hooning and screeching for all they're worth with their latest tribute to Dust and Daring Do. But is it worth a spin? Well, in the words of the late great John Lennon, beep beep, beep beep, yeah. Screaming around dirt tracks with someone shouting in your ear, Dirt 3 represents a step back from Dirt 2's populist approach, and mostly for the better. The rally in itself is as good as it's ever been, and as challenging as you make it. Wide-ranging tinkering options unleash significant changes to the way you drive. For casual gamers, there's the option to go back in time to rectify mistakes a few times each course, with a fair amount of hand-holding and lower difficulty levels, meaning the step up to intermediate will be a bit of a shock to some. Even at the basic level though, the driving feels robust and realistic. Despite fewer cars than many of its contemporaries, Dirt 3 hugely impresses with its vehicles, thanks mainly to the variation and authenticity of their handling. Every one feels and sounds distinct, from the untamed bestiality of the buggies to the tensile responsiveness of the Gymkhana. Single-player mode is structured strongly, with your own mechanic, agent and team giving you advice and support throughout.
I'll turn you into an international sensation in no time.
Refocusing the single player on the rally world certainly gives the game a tighter and more streamlined experience, but there's still a good deal of frivolity in the trunk. The multiplayer infected mode is a fun, if slightly short-lived reason to drive headlong into your friends, but Gymkhana is much more successful. It's a surprisingly challenging and addictive way to while away many an hour, as you spin and bulldoze your way through various obstacle courses, all in the name of style. Graphically, it's flat out gorgeous, but the sound is the real winner, with a faithful crunk to the engine noises and a stonking variety of top tunes. The music builds a cracking atmosphere and helps pass the exhausting barrage of menus and tutorials. For Dirt 3 is an extremely chatty game. Much as it's nice to be gushingly complimented by faceless subroutines, it gets a bit grating being told how awesome your last drive was, when the reality involved barely missing several trees and inducing heart attacks in at least 5 elderly spectators. It's hard to accept the offer of putting it all on YouTube without worrying that the automatons have developed sarcasm. For closet exhibitionists though, this is pure gold and an exciting feature for the future. So is it a driving game for novices or diehards? In truth, a bit of both. There are a lot of modes to dip into in Dirt 3. Its main mistake perhaps that there isn't quite enough depth to some of them. But at its heart, Codemasters have made a hugely enjoyable and downright sexy game, with plenty of gut-hurling off-road action and some absolutely superb racing courses. If your life so far has consisted solely of marathon sessions of any of the previous entries in the series, you may find something to grumble about here, but if you're prepared for a healthy mix of rallying, split screen and twirling around in circles, then you should get your hands dirty with Dirt 3. Fitness is for girls. Unless, of course, you believe those overgrown muscle junkies from UFC who think that men could do with a spot of exercise as well. As if, that's all muscle. Anyway, they've brought a new game for Kinect called UFC Personal Trainer, the ultimate fitness system. We sent our very own Steve Hill to flex his muscles and show him what he was made of. Turns out it was mainly sugar puffs and beer. Well, mainly beer. Okay, entirely beer. He's just all beer. It's weird.
Since I'm going for a pint in about 5 minutes, this seems pointless.
You ready to train like a pro?
Yes. I feel like I'm doing river dance. Yeah, that hurts. It's really comfortable. Technical issues. Technically unfit. Can't see the screen, so I'm gonna have to stop. That's enough. That's enough.
Easy routine 4.
When you say easy, how easy am I looking?
For you, as a natural, sky's the limit.
Have it. Take that. I kill you.
Me. So you burn 47 calories then?
47 calories, what, that's like a mini Milky Way or something?
Yeah, yeah.
I have earned that pint, is the way I look at it.
Yeah.
Not sure about the next 6. That's how not to do it. Napoleon Dynamite really hasn't got it. That wasn't a full workout. You're a quitter.
Yeah, she's impressed. But I'm not.
B, forget it. My career's peaked. No mass. That's it. No mass. You know, I've played Wii Sports, but this seems like, yeah, and that feels like an actual workout. I can barely speak, so please say something.
Yeah, as in, like, obviously, it's I'm a UFC fighter as well, so a lot of the things are incorporated in this game, the exercise we do in the gym, but always a little bit more mature aspect to this, you know, not just for kids. And as you can see, you get a very good workout.
Legend has it that every time a new shooter comes out, a child's innocence dies. This month's Red Faction Armageddon, however, has a particularly unusual way of desecrating childhoods, armed as it is with the fabled Mr. Toots. To find out what the hell that's all about, we got our asses to Mars! That's Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's really very good. Get to the interview! It's another one.
If we didn't include the magnet gun, I would say my favorite weapon is Mr. Toots. He's a unicorn, and his head sits on your shoulder. He's a very cute unicorn. He nuzzles you. He's very nice. He's got rainbows on him. And you put your arm underneath him like this, and then you pull the trigger. And I'm not saying what you pull to pull the trigger. But the tail shoots up, and his eyes bug out, and he starts screaming, and he goes, ah! And a rainbow shoots out of his butt and destroys anything it hits. There's a lot of stuff that set us apart, I think. There's the ultimate destructibility, there's the existence of repair, but because of the destruction engine, I can throw a guard tower at you. I can rip the wall completely off a building and fling it. I can fling a guard tower at the other guard tower and take both guard towers out in one shot. Well, one of my favorite things to do is to shoot a bad guy, duck around a corner, shoot the other projectile at the wall, and watch the guy's head go coming through the wall because he destroys it on the way by. You hear this whistling sound, and then there's this throop, and then this head comes through the wall and goes thunk.
Well, that's it for part one, but if the prospect of mythical beasts with all-consuming rainbow diarrhea isn't enough to bring you back for part two, then dear God, nothing will be. Anyway, speaking of which, see you after the break. Dear God, get the door! The door!